Okay, you can tell the passion that I have for this area that I went over my allotted time. This one will be a much shorter segment that's left there, hopefully. But I was talking about even when they're sundowning and they're having that fear of darkness and the change in their circadian rhythm, they feel overstimulated or are just worn out and become more aggressive. You need to work with them and be patient with them. Sundowning actually is a real issue that can occur for reasons that we're still learning a lot about. So with the nursing assessment of dementia in older adults, really take a look at identifying the conditions that cause the negative consequences while they're in the illness stage there. Attitudes and myths, lack of information, all those things can really influence a person's assessment of dementia, and cultural factors really play into it. Some cultures place a lot more value on having even the person with Alzheimer's at home at a much longer time, but maybe there's ways you can provide additional relief once in a while for those people of those cultures that are doing that. And it's really an ongoing assessment that's going on in determining what's happening with a patient with dementia. So the question, how can you tell the difference between dementia and delirium? In addition to that chart that I showed earlier on the other video there, and that you have in your notes, this little last slide of a video really kind of put it together very nicely. And it says the same thing, but in much shorter terms. And if you want to look at the video, you can certainly go onto YouTube. It's put out by Rhesus, R-H-E-S-U-S Medicine, and is done very well. I wanted to show you the CAM instrument, C-A-M, Confusion Assessment Method Instrument, purposely because it's a wonderful tool for kind of analyzing, do they have delirium or not? And it goes into actually these questions to kind of guide you, and these four features that you see. And if you see the way to diagnose if it's delirium, they'll meet number 1 and number 2, and either number 3 or number 4. And that will help you assess it there. So it's a 4-point algorithm, again, using 1 and 2 and either 3 or 4. Now, the nursing assessment of delirium, you need to recognize there's 3 subtypes of delirium. Hyperactive, where they're just on fire, going, vocal, perhaps very upset. Or they're hypoactive, where they're very quiet, subdued, maybe even almost sleeping there. Or there can be a waxing and waning mixture of that can occur. And really, your diagnosis that hits there is acute confusion. And the steps that you need to take to help plan that really vary on the subtype of delirium that they're experiencing, and a little bit of trial and error as to what works. Some interventions for delirium. Well, you want to get people involved that can help. It's not all nursing. Nursing leads it, nursing guides it, but you want to involve PT and OT for aggressive mobilization. Help them kind of walk off that extra aggression, or if they're the hypo, get them up and moving so they don't develop problems. Look at non-pharmacological interventions. And look at educating your staff who might be a little bit scared of that. And it does happen even with experienced nurses where somebody kind of needs to step in and say, well, you know, this is kind of a normal thing here. You don't want to stir things up. Here's what I would suggest. Seek out your care partners you're working with at any time if you're running into that. With delirium, if you manage it right, things can hopefully resolve sooner, but keeping the patient safe and happy is really kind of a good goal there. Functional consequences that can occur with it not being properly managed can include longer hospitalization stays, increased mortality, and increased dependency, a need to have somebody else helping them, short and long-term functional impairments, and unfortunately higher rates of permanent residency in long-term facilities, something that probably could be avoided in the long run simply by acting upon what needs to be addressed with that patient at the moment. Thank you for listening, and I hope this has helped you prepare. Happy studying.